We are going to get reaction right now from Florida Senator Rick Scott, who is joining me. He's the head of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Senator, good to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us. And it's quite timely that you're here because you just got called out by the President of the United States for the plan that you have put forth. So I'd like to play that, and then we'll get your reaction and your response to President Biden. Here it is.
Senator Rick Scott of Florida, United States Senator, who's leading the Republican National Senatorial Campaign Committee, released what he calls the Ultra MAGA Agenda. It's a MAGA agenda, all right. Let me tell you about this Ultra MAGA agenda. It's extreme, as most MAGA things are. It will actually raise taxes on 75 million American families.
Senator Scott, you want to respond to that?
Sure. I had the opportunity to listen to what the president said. First off, almost every sentence was a complete lie. First off, let's think about what he did. He never talked about inflation. You know, since he's been in office, inflation is 8.5%. We just had a negative GDP down 1.4%. So you see people that are struggling all across this country. Now, with regard to, there's a complete difference between my view of the world and his view of the world. I'm the biggest tax cutter probably in the Senate right now, or even up here. I cut taxes 100 times. Since Joe Biden got into politics, think of what's happened. Taxes have gone up on Americans constantly. On top of that, he's taken the debt of this country from under $1 trillion to $30 trillion. And his plan that he put out will take the debt of this country to $45 trillion and has massive tax increases on everybody. My plan is reduce taxes, but let's get everybody back to work. With regard to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, when I was governor of Florida, on top of cutting taxes 100 times and, by the way, reducing the debt of the state by a third, what I also did was I fixed the pension plan. Here, Joe Biden, since he's been around, had made sure that whether it's the Social Security or Medicare are in worse position every year. Medicare goes bankrupt in 4 years. He doesn't want to fix it. Democrats don't want to fix it. Social Security goes bankrupt in 12 years. They don't want to fix it. I want to have a conversation. Let's fix these programs so they last. People are paid into these programs. They paid into Medicare. They paid into Social Security. What the Democrats are doing and what Joe Biden is doing, he just keeps passing the buck and watching these plans go bankrupt. And he'll wait for the next president or the next Senate to have to try to fix these things. So what he just did was a complete lie. Go to rescueamerica.com. You can see exactly what I believe. I want to fix this country. We've got to rescue this country, not take it down Joe Biden's horrible path.
Well, let's show everyone at home the new polls that we have, and they really do match up with the numbers that we've seen from other polling outlets around the country. And this is exactly why you have the president coming out today and sort of carving out this issue of the deficit and speaking about that and not speaking about inflation. That's the job performance number. Approval, 45%, disapprove, 53%. And I think we have some more of these numbers that show the breakdown. So on the economy, he's at 36% approval, crime, 33% approval, immigration, 32%, inflation, he's at 28% approval on how he's handling this. But Senator Scott, explain to everybody at home why he is focusing on the cut that has been seen in the deficit of this country and calling that a big win.
Well, he's not doing anything. I mean, deficit's not going down. The amount of deficit might go down a little bit because we were in the pandemic when the last year of President Trump. And so we don't have all that excess spending right now, but the deficit's not going down. Joe Biden, the Democrats want to spend every dollar they can. His plan takes the debt of this country from $30 trillion to $45. Tell me how we're going to pay for that. Look at what's happening in interest rates. The 10-year's over 3% today. How are we going to pay for this? We only collect about $4 trillion in federal revenues right now. The debt's at 30. So now it's almost $900 billion probably in interest expense. I don't know how you can pay for this stuff. Think about it, the Democrats won't fix deficit spending. They won't fix Medicare. They won't fix Social Security. They just have massive spending, just constant massive spending. We're talking about a China bill that will be $250 billion with no return to the American public. This has got to stop. The inflation will not stop until we balance the budget. We get people back to work. We figure out, how do you reduce inflation? You create more competition. You reduce the permitting process. You reduce regulation. That's how you get inflation down. Stop this.
We almost never hear Republicans or Democrats talk about balancing the budget, and you would expect to hear more about it from Republicans. We'll see if we'll hear it in the next round of the midterm elections as they move along. But, you know, Republicans tearing into liberals after this leak of the Supreme Court draft opinion that could spell the end of Roe v. Wade, ending nearly 5 decades of federalizing the legal right to an abortion nationwide. This is Chief Justice John Roberts has ordered an investigation into what he calls an egregious breach of trust.
And it is the culmination of a multi-year campaign by Senate Democrats to delegitimize and to politicize the court.
It's one of the most egregious violations of the sanctity of the Supreme Court. And I hope there's serious consequences to it.
This was despicable, it's dangerous, and it was dumb. To those who want to gain power through destroying institutions, you're going to get rejected at the ballot box.
You know, one of the things that strikes me here, Senator, is that both sides are sort of grabbing this narrative and figuring out how to wrestle with it as you head towards the midterms. And I just want to get your reaction to what President Biden just said, because he was talking about how radical, he called it the mega agenda, then he called it the MAGA agenda, and then he corrected himself and called it the MAGA agenda again. But what he just suggested was that this decision, if it goes through by the Supreme Court, could lead to the overturning of the Griswold case, which was about whether or not married couples can use birth control in their own lives, in their own bedrooms. And he said it could also lead to a situation where LGBTQ children are not put in the same classrooms with the rest of the children in the classroom. Is that where we're headed here, Senator?
I don't know where he's coming from, but I'll tell you what's radical. The Democrats want late-term abortion. They want to have abortion up to birth, and they don't have any obligation to keep the child alive. That's what's radical. We're going to see what the Supreme Court comes out with. I hope they find out exactly who did this and they lose their job. I mean, this is ridiculous what these people are doing. I mean, whether it's packing the Supreme Court, putting term limits on the Supreme Court, or now just doing everything they can to delegitimize the Supreme Court is not good for this country. Democrats are starting thinking, talk about what's good for this country. Go win in a free and fair election. That's what you should be doing. Don't discredit all these institutions that we have.
Here's Elizabeth Warren sort of giving us a sample of what this is going to look like politically. Listen to this.
This is what the Republicans have been working toward this day for decades. They have been out there plotting, carefully cultivating these Supreme Court justices so they could have a majority on the bench who would accomplish something that the majority of Americans do not want. People want Roe versus Wade to maintain.
We don't want to dismember children in the womb, ma'am. We are not going to stand.
Wow, that's a taste of just what this looks like, just what this argument looks like today, Senator. What do you think?
Well, I mean, first off, let's find out what happened. Let's find out what the decision is. But I'll tell you what, I'm pro-life. I believe in the sanctity of life. But what I'm going to fight is what the Democrats want to do, and that's want to say you can abort a baby up until birth and not keep them alive. That's not right.
Yeah, we have new polls that show that 54% of those polled favor a ban after 15 weeks. And I think what we're going to learn here, when you really look at where people stand on this issue, is that that is a very common feeling across the country. Now, you're going to get people on, both ends of the spectrum on that. But I think that, that 54% reveals that they're pretty much in line with the Mississippi law that was at stake here.
Yeah, I think, and that's where Europe is. It's around 15 weeks. There should be an exception for rape and incest. So I think that's where the American public is. But they're not where the Democrats are. The Democrats are radical.
Senator Scott, thank you very much. Senator Rick Scott joining us today of Florida.